Today I'm constructing a simple production roost. It is designed to deliver eggs to the production manager without disturbing the hen, and to direct chicken waste to a processing catchment directly below the roost. The sides of the roost are made from expanded steel. It is bound together by plastic zip ties, and the sharp edges are protected by divided tubing. There is a 2-inch opening on the front of the roost for the egg to automatically exit into a 2-inch backstop. A simple flip-up hatch provides easy access for roost management and maintenance. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to freestyle here from my desk, and outside of my window is a busy street, so from time to time you're going to hear some strange noises. Just try to pay attention. So the diagram that you're looking at is a profile of the cage that I showed you just a minute ago, and we are actually going to cut one long solid piece. So let me explain here. The front panel is 18 inches. The top panel is 18 inches. The back panel is 16 inches. The bottom panel is 24 inches, and the backstop is 2 inches, for a total of 78 inches. And if you'll notice that just below the production roost title of this diagram, you will see that the cage is 18 inches wide. So we're going to cut one piece of expanded steel, 18 inches wide and 78 inches long. Now, the reason I used expanded steel is because we have a problem with aggressive reptiles in this area. We have pythons, king cobras, iguanas, monitor lizards, bearded dragons, flying turtles. Anyway, the expanded steel protects the hens from all four sides and allows them to see what's coming. And a reptile trying to get to the chickens would have to find its way around to the egg slot, and that would give the hens some time to raise the alarm and for us to come and see what's going on. You can actually use any type of metal you want, as long as it'll hold its form. One thing to keep in mind is that the gap should not be so wide as to trap the hen's legs. Just make sure that there's a solid platform for them to step on, and yet enough room for chicken waste to pass through to the catchment underneath the rack. Now what I'm doing here is I'm measuring where the bends are going to occur. Refer back to the diagram to see the measurements between each bend. I thought it'd be a good idea just to sandwich the steel between two pallets and lay on top to hold it secure. I started by first bending the 2-inch backstop. Now it's worth taking just a second here to mention that this expanded steel is nasty stuff. You can see by the cuts on my arm that I took a beating. The temperature that day was around 98 degrees Fahrenheit, so I just chose to take my licks and remain cool. The rest of the bending is pretty straightforward. I'm just tapping it with the hammer to get a 90-degree angle, and then because my steel is pre-measured, I can hop off the pallet, slide the steel forward to the next mark, weigh down the pallet again, and then smash it with the hammer. Now that the surrounding clamshell has been completed, we just simply need to cut the sides and then we can begin assembly. There is one thing to remember when cutting the sides. The top of this cage is level, and the bottom has a downward slope so that the egg will exit the cage. Remember that when you make your cut for the side panels, to keep the top level, the front of the side panel should be cut at 18 inches and the back of the panel should be cut at 16 inches, giving it a downward angle. So I have one side cut and I'm placing it on the side of the clamshell and zip tying the edges to the clamshell. Now that I've got one side on and the pen itself has some rigidity, I'm going to flip it on its side and I'm quickly going to cut the 2-inch egg slot while I still have some room to work. And then the obvious next step is to cut the second side and zip tie it to the clamshell. So now that the basic shape is complete, I'm going to begin to protect these sharp edges with some 3/8 inch clear tubing. This process is also pretty straightforward, where you just take a segment of the clear tubing and you split one side of it so that it can be stretched over the sharp edges of the expanded steel. The last step is to complete the maintenance door on the front of the cage. The opening in the front of the cage is cut 8 inches tall and 8 inches wide and centered. Now I forgot to film the actual making of the front hatch, but I think based on the information that I've given you so far, creating it yourself would be fairly intuitive. Some information that would be helpful to you is to know that my hatch is 12 inches wide, giving plenty of overlap to seal the front opening. And then the final component of this cage is the feeding tube. It's just a 2-inch PVC pipe that can be found at any hardware store, attached to a U-shaped PVC pipe that allows the chickens to access the food that you will pour inside of the tubing. On the top, I've capped the PVC pipe to keep out critters and to reduce the amount of moisture coming in contact with the feed.